Okay, we will call this regular council meeting to order for February the 26th. It is 3 p.m. and I will ask Councillor Hystad to please read the land acknowledgement.
Thanks, Mayor Jean. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3 with the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge that many First Nations, Métis and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for our traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hystad. And next we're going to have a Deputy Mayor swearing in. So I'll just ask Councillor Dunham to come up. And I don't know if people can hear us, but if not, it's okay. So I'll just get you to raise your right hand, please. And I, Dale Dunham.
I, Dale Dunham.
Do swear that I will diligently.
Do swear that I will diligently.
Faithfully and to the best of my ability.
Faithfully and to the best of my ability.
Execute according to law.
Execute according to law.
The office of Deputy Mayor.
The office of Deputy Mayor.
For the town of Innisfail, so help me God.
For the town of Innisfail, so help me God.
Okay, thank you, Councillor
Thank you.
Dunham. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Dunham. Okay, and I just want to acknowledge Pink Shirt Day is Wednesday, which is why we all have pink shirts on today. So Ken asked that we come together and get a photo taken. And we'll move into 3.1. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? See if I could know. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Dunham.
Mayor Barclay, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. And we'll go into 4.1, the regular council meeting minutes for February the 12th. When you're ready, I'll please have someone make a motion for those.
I'll move the council meeting minutes of February the 12th.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. Any changes? No? All in favor? Okay, carried. And then the agenda and priorities minutes for February the 20th.
Mayor Barclay, I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? Okay, carried. So we'll now move into 5.1, and I'd like to invite Lindsay Pickard to please come up to the desk and chat to council today. Welcome, Lindsay. If you could just turn the mic on, please. On the council meetings are always recorded, okay. So the only way people can hear and we can capture the recording is by using the microphones.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Innisfail Town Council, my name is Lindsay Pickard, a lifelong resident of our beloved town, born and raised here with deep roots from all the years in high school and over a decade-long tenure at the Gift Loft. I've seen our community evolve and thrive. However, today, I'm not just as a resident, but as a concerned citizen invested in our collective safety and well-being. The issue I bring to your attention today is one that affects us all, pedestrian safety. As someone who frequents our streets and beautiful walking paths, walking for work, exercise, or leisure, I've encountered firsthand the dangers posed by some of our crosswalks. These are not just mere inconveniences, but potential hazards that threaten lives. Now, I understand that sounds dramatic, but unfortunately, this isn't hyperbole. Some may argue that pedestrians must be the only ones to exercise caution and yield to traffic, though I do think pedestrians use caution or must use caution. However, it is a shared awareness and comes down to accountability. I'd like to remind everyone and point out that the right-of-way for pedestrians as outlined by the Government of Alberta is, quote, pedestrians have the right-of-way in a crosswalk unless a peace officer or traffic control device directs otherwise. This means that even in the unmarked crosswalk, vehicles must stop and yield to pedestrians. Failing to yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk will result in a $810 fine and 4 demerit points, end quote. However, my general feeling in recent years as these close calls become more and more frequent is that most drivers at crosswalks that I will point out here seem to either not know this fact, drive as if pedestrians don't have the right of way. Stopping is an inconvenience to them, and they drive as if that's already the law. It has become very frustrating in the sense that the overwhelming percentage don't know basic rules of the road. And I'm well aware of the fact that I don't have a seatbelt and airbags. It's not a dented bumper I fear, but far greater consequences. I'd also like to emphasize that I'm only sharing my experiences and not speaking for those who engage in risky behavior while crossing. That is a separate concern for someone else to bring forward and something I'm not addressing. My concerns stem from the aftermath of diligently following safety protocols. As a responsible grown adult, I take every precaution to ensure my safety. I don't walk with my phone out while crossing. As a single woman, I don't walk in the dark, and when experiencing these incidences, it's not through jaywalking, or I would not be before you today. I must say that when sharing my experiences, sometimes I get pushback or people not believing how serious it is. Often the questions posed to me are what I could have done or should do differently next time when crossing, but they can't offer any solutions to what I'm already doing, so they just say you need to be more aware or more cautious. I abide by the rules of the road, and it is very simple. I use common sense. I don't want to be hit by a vehicle by out walking. Yet, even with vigilance and adherence to Alberta traffic, I'm also looking both ways and looking out as I cross. But these close calls remain a harrowing reality of mine and others. One of them being a heart-stopping moment a few weeks ago when it was a clear, dry, and the crosswalk I entered was marked and visible, which was the incident prompting me to take action. At the Dairy Queen crossing towards 4-Lane Ford, despite vehicles on both sides stopping for me to cross, one driver laid on the horn for my attention as they could see something that I couldn't. At the time, I couldn't discern if the honk was directed toward me, as I was already halfway across the street, which I must emphasize, when these moments happen, I'm not just stepping off the curb, and I'm not looking toward oncoming traffic. I'm already halfway across the street. The drivers have already stopped on both sides the driver has already stopped for oncoming traffic. I wait to cross, and I'm already in front of the vehicle at this point. Then they tend to be looking the other way, and people don't consider pedestrians as traffic. Most times they don't see me unless I'm in front of the windshield, but this time was different. This driver was in the furthest lane away from me when I initially started crossing, but my view was blocked by a delivery truck to one of the fast food restaurants. Since I couldn't see, in this case, I was assuming that because all the other traffic had stopped, this driver in the furthest lane would notice and stop. But instead, as I stepped past the delivery truck, this driver sped past so dangerously close to me that had I taken one more step, I would have been struck in front of my workplace at 4-Lane Ford in daylight where I work alongside my mom. It left me so shaken up and recalling all the other times and how it's getting worse and worse. This has led me to solidify my position in this case and others that yellow lights flashing would indicate to the driver to stop even without seeing a pedestrian initially, or the driver in question. In times like this, or had I been hit, there would be no doubt that it was their fault, as it is something tangible to point to that helps pedestrians when it comes to the law and witnesses, instead of opposition directed toward us as pedestrians. I reached out to town council that day and was put in contact with a peace officer via email. While I appreciate the communication, I understand that addressing this issue requires more resources than what 2 peace officers can provide, which they pointed out. Despite being asked also if I have been able to capture license plate during these close calls, I admit I haven't been able to do so. In the heat of the moment, quite frankly, it's challenging to gather my evidence while also trying to ensure my own safety amidst fast-moving traffic. By the time I already crossed the street, the drivers have sped off. By taking concerns to social media on the Innisfail Bulletin Facebook page, I received an outpouring of support from fellow residents who echoed similar experiences and frustration. Among them was a driver who witnesses the incident I just recounted and confirmed what happened and shared the urgency for pedestrian improvements in Innisfail. But this isn't just about one isolated incident, it's a pattern of unsafe crossings in our town. The crossings towards Fast Gas from the train tracks and then toward the bowling alley are consistently hazardous, as well as the top of the Cemetery Hill towards Cow Tire. These pose risks to pedestrians on a daily basis. As I have walked from my home from the last 10 years, consistently to get to work by 8:30 to 9 a.m. and home at around 5, and sometimes during the summer at the gift loft, I would walk home during my lunch. So nearly 3 times a day for a decade, I am very aware of this area and the increased risk I have faced. Pedestrian lights similar to the 2 on Main Street and by White Rock Crossing towards the high school have offered a tangible, proven method to enhance safety. Drivers tend to respond to something that is more obvious, like a legitimate flashing lights blinking at their face, than yield or pedestrian signs. One that is a lighted pedestrian button crossing, in my opinion, works best. Yet I understand the concerns about cost and opposition. However, the price of inaction far outweighs any monetary considerations. Some of the questions you may have might be if I have explored other solutions besides pedestrian lights. And while pedestrian lights are primary solution and what I'm advocating for and proposed here today for their proven effectiveness, I'm open to exploring alternative measures as well. That could include calming traffic measures to slow down vehicles and enhance pedestrian safety. Or how do pedestrian lights differ from existing traffic lights, and why do I believe they would improve safety? Pedestrian lights are designed to focus attention on pedestrian crossings, enhance visibility and awareness for drivers. Their effectiveness in other areas of the town already underscores their potential to improve safety. And what would the estimated cost and timeline be? While I don't have exact figures, I'm confident that prioritizing pedestrian safety is a worthwhile investment. And working together, I believe that our community can make our streets safer for everyone, whether on foot or behind the wheel. And in conclusion, I urge you to prioritize pedestrian safety for not just me, but for every member of our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Lindsay. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for coming forward and bring this. And I can say, and this morning I had the same incident at Fast Gas where myself and Charlotte were almost hit, actually in the middle of the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that I appreciate you coming forward. I see that our main street, there's a couple areas near the cemetery that are very poorly, signage could help, but I really appreciate you coming forward today. It helps us and administration to do a good job and to ensure safety in our community. I guess the only thing that I wanted to say to administration and council, I think it'd be good for us to maybe do a check-in and do a tour of our own community and see where these issues are in town. I think there is a number of issues in their crosswalks, and if we could maybe do a tour and check that out. But thanks, Lindsay. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Heistad. Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Thanks for coming.
Thank
You
you.
did a great job.
Thank you.
You did, and I could tell you did a lot of homework and prepared yourself really well. Calming traffic is an international movement. The whole desire for communities to become walkable and safe is something that's important for all of us. It's young families, it's for old people like me, it's for everybody. So thank you for coming. I'm glad you made it out of that intersection safely.
Thank you.
And I agree with Councillor Heistad. I think it's something that we as council need to talk about a little bit more proactively and get a better look at what the streets are really like. But again, thanks for coming, Lindsay.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So, sorry, Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And I'd like to also thank you, Lindsay, for coming in today. I can't tell you how many times I've been driving by and seen you walking to work and giving a little wave and that. And I tend not to spend as much time out walking on the main street as others do, but I have seen a couple instances when I've been in vehicles and noticed people not stopping. Everything in our community, not everything, but many things in our community has to start with people like you who come forward to us to speak about it. Then that gets a conversation going with us, which then hopefully will lead into something and some sort of solution. So I thank you for coming forward. And I am also sorry because I have seen some of the posts and there have been some not very pleasant comments to what your concerns were. So behalf of the community, I apologize for that, because
Thank
really
you.
you deserved some more respect. But thank you for bringing
Thank
this
you.
to our attention, and I look
I
forward to us
appreciate that.
exploring options.
Okay, well then, let's get to work. So how about I'll make a motion that we direct administration to bring a report back to council on road safety, traffic patterns. CO Becker, maybe offer some help.
Mayor Barkley to council, and conversation to the Director of Operations prior to the meeting, anticipating council may wish to advance further dialogue. I think there's a term called pedestrian safety assessment. I think that is the term maybe associated with your motion, Mayor Barkley. Based upon your direction, it'd be put over to the director to work with his team to conduct that work. It should show, kind of highlight some of the challenges or issues, opportunities associated with pedestrian safety in specific areas. Is that fair, Director?
I guess, a little bit of clarification. Are we focusing on 50th Street, Main Street, or are we looking at the town as a whole? Because it could get pretty broad.
It can get very broad, yeah. Well, certainly 50th, and I think around the fast gas area, maybe kind of those more main thoroughfares where the traffic patterns are maybe a little bit heavier. So did you want me to amend that motion to say pedestrian safety, or you're okay?
I think we have it
Fine, yeah,
understood,
okay,
Mayor
yeah,
Barkley.
for sure. Thank you, Councillor Hystad.
Yeah, I was going to add to Director Kennedy, like, if I look at 42nd Street, when you're going towards Field and Forge and you're going towards the big highway there, you got the schools, and then you got that one little crosswalk there, and there's a truck sitting there all the time. It's not visible, like places like that in town, and it's just not that specific area. I think there's a number of areas that we really need to hone in on. So, thanks.
Yeah, just to add that area along Lakewood as well. I've talked about that before from the library's perspective, access residents on one side of the highway and services on the other side. So I think just that sort of broad, from that broad traffic perspective.
There's a crossing there, correct? At Sunset, there's a crossing, right? Mark Crossing? At the library, yeah, at library and Sunset, yes, okay. So we have a motion to do that, so all in favor? Okay, unanimous, so thank you, Lindsay, for
Thank you.
coming in, and be safe out there. Yeah, okay. Okay, and we'll move on to 6.1, CO report with CO Becker.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Just a few items to clean up some formalities based on your agendas and priorities meeting from last week. Last week, council made a motion to recommend to regular council to donate $500 to the Innisfil Fish and Game Association for sponsorship of a door prize for the upcoming 4th annual awards banquets. So looking for some formal direction there, as well as have council review the attached potential clause for your code of conduct bylaw associated with social media. Just so if you wish to advance that, we can move it into a bylaw format if you like the wording. Other than that, council may see some splash on a recent signing of the Regional Emergency Management Agreement, which you approved back in December 2022. So it's been a long process to get 9-ish municipalities together to sign that emergency management agreement. So you might see some social media coverage on that. So other than that, the report's there for your information, council, if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you. Could I please have someone make the first recommended motion with the donation to Fish and Game? Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council approves the donation request of $500 to the Innisfil Fish and Game Association for sponsoring the door prize for the 4th annual awards banquet.
Okay, thanks. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. And then we have the second motion, and there's also a example attached of social media policy. So could I please have someone just make the second motion?
Mayor Barkley, excuse me, I would move that council direct administration to draft a new code of council code of conduct bylaw with the inclusion of social media clauses.
Okay, thanks. Question I have, I guess CEO Becker, on the use of social media, item number 1, point number 1. Do you think that's somewhat contradictory to our code of conduct? Like, or maybe I just don't understand it, that we're entitled to express our personal opinions, even though including disagreement? Like, I don't quite, because once a motion is made, then we're kind of...
It's, from my perspective, Mayor Barkley, to your question, my experience is that the U.S. Council may not be in agreement, and you're allowed to do that.
Yep.
Correct? You make your motion, associate, give direction. I believe you as council, and this is only from administration, so I'm not a councilor, I've never been, but you have a right to say, you know, I voted against this, I believe,
here's
but
why. Yep.
but council as a whole made this decision, I support council. So
Yep.
that's kind of how I read that clause, but
Fair enough, yeah.
if it's not clear, then we can reword it, but you should, I believe you should still have your personal or professional opinion, even though it may contradict council, as long as you're not speaking against council as a whole, that,
Yeah.
and I think that's part of code of conduct, that it's
Okay.
clear, you can disagree, but your communication should not contradict or,
Yeah, no, thanks for clarifying.
yeah,
It just
that
kind
makes
of
sense.
confused me for sure, so. Okay. Any other discussion? No? Okay, all in favor of the motion? Okay, carried. And then the third motion to accept CO report. Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council approves the CIO report dated February 26, 2024 as information.
Okay, perfect. All in favor? All right, carried, thank you. Then we'll move to action control.
Mayor Barkley, I
Item.
could walk you through some of these, I
Yep.
can give some updates.
Sure, that would be great, thank
And
you.
maybe add some questions from council. Just moving down, still working on AHS representation regarding EMS services as well as the contractor. So there has been questions submitted from council. We're just waiting for that response. The insurance directive, there's been a date set to meet with a insurance company to get some of that information regarding personal insurance policies and status of municipal infrastructure that are likely to report back to you in April. Aquatic Center tours, I'm hoping to have through administration, a list of potential locations for you next week for your consideration. We'll talk to the director about that, and then you can give some direction where you wish to go, and we'll set that up for you. As well, over the next, tomorrow likely, I'll see some dates through the executive assistant on budget, public engagements dates for your consideration. And we'll start narrowing down some dates for your desire to engage public. As well as strategic priorities update, that's CIO's priorities right now, is to get some information to you to start moving. Well, one is to consider a framework. That direction is given, we're working on that, but also what areas do you wish to advocate for? It also ties into the AM resolution process, so that's CAO's priority at this given time. As well as tomorrow, you'll see some dates associated with the Aquatic Center strategy session for your consideration. That's something we're working on currently too. And lastly, there's questions from council. The Bethany group is slated for April as a delegation. And beyond that, if there's any questions from council.
All right, thank you. Any questions? No, thank you for those updates. Just have someone make a motion, please, that we accept that as information.
I'll make that motion to accept for information.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Heisted. All in favor? Okay, carried. Curious, CEO Becker, would you like to move Manager Shaw's presentation up? Or, well, he's here.
It's
Yeah.
really up to you, council.
Yeah, but why don't we do that, since Manager Shaw just came in, and then we can go to asset management after that and stuff, so welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Administration is here today to present to you a request for first reading of a bylaw to be able to change the use of a property that is legally described as Plan S, Block A, and civically described as 5052 59th Street. The proposal at hand is to change the land, as you see in the two motions before you, to change the land from residential single-family district, R1B, to residential multifamily district.
Manager Shaw, can I just interrupt for a second? I think Glenn's got some, no, thanks. I thought that was all your paper. Sorry. There you go. Perfect.
As I was indicating, to be able to rezone the land from R1B to R3, and then to also establish a public hearing date in March. So the subject property is approximately 1.1 acres in area. The current land use zoning does not permit the proposed use for the subject property. The municipal development plan designates this area as residential. The North Area Structure Plan does not include the subject property. The Dodd's Lake Outline Plan will also need to be amended because this plan shows the subject property as residential single-family district, R1B, and then to accommodate the proposed development, the designation will need to be changed to residential multifamily district, R3. And so this is addressed in a secondary report. So bylaw number 1470A80 proposes this amendment. The property has, of course, been previously subject to applications to change in zoning in anticipation of proposed development. Bylaw 1470A35 in 2015 changed the zoning from residential single-family district, R1C, to a direct control district to accommodate a proposed multi-unit residential development. And then bylaw 1470A56 in 2018 changed the zoning of this property from direct control district to residential single-family district, or DR1B, which it is now. So the subject property is subject to the provision of the land use bylaw, limiting setback from the top of bank section, whereby buildings are not allowed to be constructed within 12 meters of the top of bank, and the setback requirements will be addressed through the development permit review process. So Council has a variety of options that it may consider, as outlined in the report itself. You have the attachments, the bylaw, as well as the Schedule A to the bylaw, and then a couple of illustrations that show the proposed development in relation to the property lines, and then also what the type of development is proposed on this property. So, Council, today we come to you for first reading of the bylaw and the establishment of a public hearing date in March for public input on this bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Manager Shaw. Can I please have someone make the recommended motion? We can have any discussion if there is any. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. I would move that council grants first reading to bylaw number 1470-A80, being a bylaw to amend the land use zoning of property legally described as Plan S, Block A, and civically described as 5052 59th Street from residential single-family district, R1B, to residential multifamily district, R3.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Any discussion? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, one question, and it's probably to Mr. Carrot. The handout you gave us pretty clear to me, the three-story, what's the one-story building?
Mayor and Council, thank you for the time to look at this proposal. The little piece up top you're talking about, Kevin, that's for elevator shaft.
No, like,
Oh.
there's the three-story building faces the,
So that, yeah, that's future single-car garages.
Oh.
Because it's impossible to put any underground parking, of course, on that property, so it's,
no, thank you. Yeah, no, I understood the other. And I guess the only comments would have is that I've been here as we've zoned it back and forth a couple of times, and in view of what is now happening to the north, this seems like a reasonable transition to me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Through to Mr. Garrett. It's wonderful to see. It's nice to see that there'll be some movement on this, and with the, as Councillor Bates mentioned, with the adjacent property to the north, it's good. I mean, this fits into some of the areas of our housing continuum that we're in need of, so I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Council, Mayor, just, and no disrespect to Mr. Carrot, there is a public process for public hearing, which you hear the positives, so don't get too far ahead of your beliefs. Public has a right to speak at the public hearing, which is to be addressed in the next part of the report. So the zoning is the zoning today, Council. Sorry, Mr. Carrot.
understood. Yeah, I just want to add just that, if I could, is that we feel it is a good transition to the Destiny developments, isn't it? In the north there, whatever it is. So yeah, and going with the town strategic plan of, aging in place, and it's adult living that we're really short of, as we know, so.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion, first reading, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. And then we'll have a motion, please, to set the public hearing date of March 25th. Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move the council establishes March 25th, 2024 as the date to hold a public hearing to receive input on bylaw number 1470-A80 beginning at 3 p.m. in council chambers of the town office located at 4943 53rd Street, Innisfail.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. So, do you want these? Do you want back?
Well, it doesn't matter. If you guys don't have use for them, I'll take them.
I'm keeping mine.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, now we'll move into 9.2 with the proposed amendments to Dodd's Lake Outline Plan with Manager Shaw.
So, Mayor and Council, this is the second part of this process, and that involves making amendments to the Dodd's Lake Outline Plan. Now, the outline plan is not a statutory plan, therefore it is going to be changed by a resolution of council. So there are a few areas that with this proposal need to be amended, and those are shown under the recommended motion that you have before you. And then also where we're requesting that and council give consideration for a public hearing on these proposed amendments. Now typically resolutions don't require a public hearing. However, we feel that it's important that the process is seen to be transparent and open to the general public. So the Dodd's Lake Outline Plan was significantly amended in 2023. Another landowner has desired to amend the designation of their property as shown and as indicated in the first report to you. So Schedule A identifies the change proposed to be made in Table 1, Land Use Statistics, and Schedule B identifies the change proposed to be made in Figure 3, the land use concept. Now, these are technical type of amendments to the outline plan itself. However, it is a process that we need to go through in order to ensure that the amendments are adopted correctly. So you have Schedule A, which shows you the proposed changes to the land use table, Table 1 in the bylaw. There's a clause that needs to be amended, which is Clause 3.4.3. And then you have item Schedule B, where the property's designation is going to be changed from R1B to R3.
Okay, thank you, Manager Shaw. So I'll have someone make the recommended motion. Maybe we could just say, we don't need to read the whole recommended motion because it's quite long, but somebody would just like to make the motion as recommended.
Mayor Barclay will make that recommended motion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about the first motion? Councillor Bates?
So the one concern I have is, as I read the number 1 item, it does say it's more or less covering previous, everything that we've looked at here is kind of by area. And it already came up in the previous discussion that this kind of fits over in that area. But item number 1 kind of says multifamily sites proposed, if they're proposed around the lake, and I'm not sure that we want to, some of the other areas around the lake are single-family dwellings, and so if there was a infill, let's say, somebody could, I'm just questioning whether or not we want to say around the lake versus, like right now, what I see is the north side, but do we want the west, the south, the east?
Manager Shaw.
Mayor and Council, the proposed amendment only applies to the outline plan area itself, not to areas outside of the outline plan. So this would just be for those properties located within the outline plan. So it shouldn't be read too broadly. It is restricted in its scope.
Okay, well,
The Dodds Lake outline plan only covers the Greenwood quarter section, sort of, and this piece to the south.
okay, thank you for that, because when I read those words, it circled the lake. Thank you.
Any other questions? No, all in favor? Okay, carried, and then someone please make the second motion for the public hearing. Councillor Bates?
Sure. Just a minute, got to find it. That council establishes March 25th, 2024 at 3 p.m. in the council chambers of the town of Innisfail office, being 4943 53rd Street, Innisfail, Alberta, as a public hearing date and location to receive input on council's consideration of a resolution to adopt these amendments to the Dodds Lake outline plan.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, thanks, Manager Shaw. So we will move back to 7.1 and an asset management review. Thank you.
As per your request, Mayor Barclay, do you want to provide some context to the request for the agenda, or do you want to go right through the report, or?
Oh, for this item?
Yeah.
That don't need necessarily go, maybe the first part of the report. I think what I was looking for was information, because sometimes I quote saying that we are likely underfunding $1 million per year in our assets. And so I just wanted a refresher on where we were at with this. And I guess my other question comes in, I know we have in this report to invest in our facilities, but it's not replacement costs. It's more so keep them functioning as is costs. And so, I think of, the arena. I know there was some information came forward on budget and maybe some of the renovations going forward and like $4+ million. And is that captured in our asset management plan, or is this more just, well, I know it's not, but more just operational kind of things? And so that's where I'm a little bit unsure, and I just want to make sure, that the information that I guess I'm putting out there is accurate and realistic, so.
Okay, so to Mayor Barkley, to your question, so it is replacement and maintenance. Through the budget, we look at doing a separate reserve, like when we updated the reserve policies, we have a separate life cycle reserve now that's meant for the replacement of buildings. This is all focused on maintenance and operation. I guess a couple of the things, and at the end of the report, we did include, one of the discussions we had with council was in regards to our level of service. So in the memo, we talk about where's our level of service, and after 3 years of data, how have we trended, how have we maintained, we highlighted that. So we did include a chart in regards to the maintaining current status, and then we looked at what would it be if we struck a line, said we want to go to all C level of service based on our scorecards. What does that look like dollar value wise, estimated dollar value wise? And then even if we went down one more, what does that look like? And it kind of gives you an idea of what our spending would look like. When we did do that, we also heard from council that looking for some recommendation from administration as to what we would recommend. So that's the highlighted orange, is kind of almost a status quo, looking at we're maintaining a really good level of service. What would it be if we were to drop in a few areas? And again, these are based on our estimated values. You wouldn't really see it until like a 3 to 5 year period, because it's not like we don't do one thing one year and all of a sudden explodes the next year. It might take 3 to 5 years to notice. So what we did is we looked at it going, okay, well, what if we left it as what's the highest priority for a higher level of service? And that we felt was your roads and your sidewalks, highest level of priority, have maybe a service level of a higher achievable, and then your underground, maybe maintaining that C level service. So we looked at that, and what our yearly spending came out to was that $3.1 million. This year, our capital budget, we're running at $2.7 million, and that's mainly because we didn't focus a lot on water this year. We had a major project in our sanitary that needed to be done. So these are, again, guidelines of our infrastructure. If projects all go well and we could just do everything. So we do jockey the numbers around a little bit, but it does give you a guide of that $3 million range. So.
Okay, thanks, Director Kennedy. Then what about the unaccounted projects that are on page 34? Yeah,
and those are the ones that we try and fit in, right? The Highway 54 crossing. We fit those in as the projects arise, and really on council direction. Maybe this priority is higher one year. We can't always know for sure, like predicting, for instance, the Res 2, if something decides to go there, then it becomes a higher priority. So we do try and fit them in as best as we can, and try and get all of the projects we can. So it does play a little bit on the numbers.
And the reason I'm asking, we know that Alberta municipalities and individual municipalities are doing a lot of advocacy work around LGFF right now. So I did have a mid-sized towns mayor's caucus organizational meeting on Friday, and some of this discussion came up, and collecting data that can be shared amongst municipalities, but as well as shared with government as well. And so I guess, you know, what I'm looking at is if we were to do what we should be doing, where does that sit compared to what we are doing because we don't have the funding to do it? Or what kind of a tax increase would it mean if we wanted to do what we should be doing, I guess, in the asset management report?
So I guess based on the memo that we've provided you, based on just these 6 areas, like we're doing, based on the $3 million that we try to achieve every year, that's the number that we're doing what we need to do. Now, what the shortfall is and the challenge is where do we get the money though? And that's where the LGSF has fallen short. So that's where we have to adjust now our projects. So this year we're only doing 2.7 million.
Yeah.
We should be doing 3 million, but we're doing 2.7. So we still try and maintain the best service that we can.
Yeah, no, and I realize that. I guess what I would like to know, and likely all of council, is when we're speaking to this topic, you know, we're not saying you're not doing enough. We know that what the barriers are the funding, you know, probably even 3 is short, right? And in reality as to what we should be doing. I mean, if we lived in a perfect world and money wasn't an issue and we did things that were going to increase the life of our assets and have that grade where we want it to be, whatever that might be, what is that spend and how far short are we? And relaying that information on to other levels of government to have that conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I think it does make sense. And I think this year we took a pretty big chunk of that when we brought, and maybe this wasn't the right report, we brought forward our 10-year capital. And we went into a lot of detail on what reserves we need to fund to make kind of these level of service numbers work. So maybe that's something that we can bring back to you is that reserve policy and that funding strategy of how we want to achieve those.
Well, maybe tying it all together, because if we looked at, you know, we're kind of wherever we are in the aquatic center right now, but wherever that might be, and we looked at some pretty big funding for the arena going forward, or, I mean, how long does that building last and what does that mean? I mean, you know, $28 million for an aquatic center, and who knows how much for a new arena, or keep this one running for another 30 years. So I guess that's where I'm, I think, a little short of information for my discussions, but
Yeah,
CEO Becker.
Yeah, so I think the asset management plan in this memo is good information, and there's a few factors. What level of grade do you want to maintain? So there's some unknowns there, but it's still, there's room to understand where are we falling short for funding. So I think we take this information plus the anticipated 10-year capital plan. What I'm hearing is council would like to know that number to be able to engage with your political stakeholders and community. Hey, we are underfunded this amount to maintain our assets. And I think collectively with the information, we can come with a approximate number.
Sure. Yeah, because I can tell you that every municipality that was in our group on Friday, and I believe it was 16, not one is satisfied with LGFF.
Right.
You know, everybody is really struggling. So, Councillor Hystad.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. I think when you were talking about the projections, Mayor Barclay, I think that's key for us communicating to our stakeholders, as CEO Becker has brought forward, and the colleagues that you had met. I look at this as this ongoing advocacy. It's going to be years of advocacy. That's how I'm looking at it right now. But if we have the data, and when we're doing our budget after, you know, getting ready to prepare our community on where the budget's going and where our true numbers are, I think it's advocacy not only within the citizens, but also our current MLAs, ministers across the province, that this is the only way that we're going to get more money through LGFF in the future. And I don't see it happening now, but if we're showing the data consistently, I think you hope that things will improve. So thanks for that.
Thank you. And I think even like federal government too, not just provincial, but you know, when I hear, I guess we'll see this week, but when I hear that we're going to cap spending to something less than population growth and inflation for the next 25 years, that's a huge red flag for me and for every municipality in this province. Because how in the world do you keep up to what you need to keep up with when that's happening at the provincial level? So anyway, is there any comments? Councillor Bates?
Yeah, got a couple or three here related mostly to the water and sewer. A question first, when we budget our water and sewer and relate to the costs that we assess for water and sewer, is that to operate mostly, or does that include some of the capital replacements? Like when we budget,
Yeah, that, mainly that's the operating cost.
okay. Thank you for that. And then as I looked at the bigger picture where, you know, the Bs, the Cs, it occurs to me that with the current focus on drought and some of the issues that I see in fellow communities, we definitely don't want to, I don't think, short ourselves in the expenditures on particularly water and sewer. I know, again, maybe through no fault of their own, but we have some fellow communities that are really in difficulty. I mean, we're lucky to be where we are through a lot of hard work and a lot of expenditures to get here. And I would just encourage that we watch, we don't lower that grade too much. And when we do get around to doing the insurance discussion that the CAO mentioned in the action control, that was the angle, that if those facilities aren't up to a certain level, it can have direct insurance implications on our citizens, and as the insurance companies focus on incidents of water, sewer, whatever. So those are all things that we should keep in the back of our minds. And again, anything we overshoot in the water and sewer as far as getting them in good shape won't be lost. It's not like it'll provide benefit to us, I think. And again, we don't know where we're going in the next couple of months. We'll hear more about where we go with the drought discussions, but it's just a caution that I don't want to see us back away from those two.
CO Becker?
I just kind of make sure I'm asking or framing this up properly, but so I'm putting it to the director, especially on the financial and the operational side, well, even on the facility side. So we have some documents, we have some forecasting materials, but I believe council, as per my comments, is looking for some advice administratively that we are underfunded, or we are funded appropriately, or we're underfunded by $1 million per year. And to help council with any of their discussions, are we able, through the data, to make a forecast or an estimate of what that annual deficit is? Again, understanding it's kind of a guess because we have not completed in full detail our asset management planning. But are we able to work together to be able to determine in approximate what we're underfunded, and does that create challenges, or what are those challenges?
Yeah, no, definitely, we can bring forward maybe a combination of documents, and then go into some more detail and review of that master spreadsheet that we have provided council, that shows how we're funding and what the funding comes, what shortfalls we have, what year. I believe it was I can't remember the year. We did identify a point where our reserves fall short, and now it's like bad news because we have to now, we're running out of money. So we can bring that back to council and just do that, and it is a best, like we manage it as well as best we can. So But yeah, we can definitely give you that knowledge.
Sure. Like I think the figures I use when I say $1 million underfunded is from page 32 in that chart. So it shows the current average capital expenditure compared to kind of maintain the current. Yeah.
So-
Becker, yeah.
So with council's conversation, deliberation, so I know this is of urgent. You want to know quite soon of what that looks like. You're in that place of having these conversations, whether it's politically or community. So I'd recommend to you, council, to direct administration to prepare an asset funding forecast, kind of general, but I think we have the gist. Understanding you want a quite quick turnaround on that information.
And can we add to that? Would reserves be part of that? Because I know, I believe it's the wastewater reserve that gets kind of going down. And, you know, what does that look like if we maintain or build that up? And
Yeah, Mayor Berkeley is a part of that conversation, specifically with the utility reserves, because it
Okay.
is so important. We will build out a projection for that as well.
Okay.
Just a portion of that reserve does have to pay for that, right? So
Sure.
we'll make sure we bring a full accounting of that as well.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, sorry to kind of lay this on your lap as urgent. It's not urgent, but I just want to let you know that there are other communities that are collecting this data, and I think the more data we have to share and the more information, then the further those conversations can go, of course. And anything else? No, just have somebody make the motion then, please, that CEO Becker just recommended. Councillor Dunham.
I'll make that motion as per CEO Becker.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? Okay, thank you. And we'll move to 8.1 with Director Vickers and the rates and fees bylaw.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So back on December 11th of 2023, administration brought forward the 2024 annual budget and corresponding rates and fees bylaw update for approval. Council did approve both on that date. Administration later noticed an error with the solid waste rate listed in the rates and fees bylaw. Council had previously approved a solid waste rate of $25 per month. However, the solid waste rate is currently sitting at $23 per month inside the rates and fees bylaw. So we did create a timeline of events that we have used to kind of track this error. So back on May 19th, 2019, a new solid waste bylaw was created to include the rates of $23 per month. So that's garbage at $18 a month and recycling at $5 a month. On December 14th of 2020, the 2021 budget was passed with an increase of $2 to $20 per month for the solid waste garbage rates. This increase was to cover the cost of new garbage and organic bin purchase, as well as any future bin purchases, specifically recycling bins, and the replacement of all bins. At that time, there was no change to the solid waste bylaw. On December 13th, 2021, the 2022 budget was passed with no further changes to the solid waste rates, and council approved the purchase of automated recycling bins in 2022. On July 11th, 2022, the town created a new rates and fees bylaw that incorporated rates and fees from various bylaws. Administration pulled the rates directly from the solid waste bylaw to incorporate into the rates and fees bylaw without making any amendments. On December 12th, 2022, the 2023 budget passed with no changes, as well as the following year, December 11th. The 2024 budget passed with no changes to the solid waste rates. In January this year, a member of staff noticed this error and brought it to administration's attention. Once the error was noticed, administration did consult legal counsel for advice. Legal counsel advised administration to amend the rates and fees bylaw and not revisit the fees that have been charged to date, on the basis that those changes were reflected in budget, which was approved by council. This was simply an administrative error, and the fees will be treated as valid going forward, based on council approval. So January and February 2024 rates will reflect the $23 per month. Once the amended rates and fee bylaw is approved, the updated residential solid waste rates will take effect on March 1st, 2024. Going forward, a list of all utility fees, whether they are updated in the current budget cycle or not, will be attached to budget approval for council to review and approve each year. This document will be provided internally to the town's legislative clerk to update the rates and fees bylaw, and also to the town's utility clerk to update the utility rates in our financial software, so that this is kind of a full circle, so this doesn't happen again going forward. The cost of the error with the solid waste rates being reflected at $23 for January and February in 2024 is just over $11,500.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Could I please have someone make the first motion? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I move that council accepts and gives bylaw 1720-2024 to amend the rates and fees bylaw first reading.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Bates?
So the one question I have is, so is the error traceable back to 2020? Is that where it actually occurred?
Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor Bates. So the first error that happened was on December 14th, 2020, where the rates were not updated. When we further created the rates and fees bylaw, we did not update the rates at that time either. So.
Okay, and then my second question, because it doesn't exactly state it, so then passing these, that rate will become $25 instead of $23.
Correct, which is what was approved during the budget cycle.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Have somebody please make the second motion. Councillor Bates?
Move that we accept and give bylaw 1720-2024 to amend the rates and fee bylaw, second reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And have somebody make the third motion.
I'll make the third motion, that council gives consideration for bylaw 1720-2024 to amend the rates and fees bylaw for third reading.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? And then please have someone make the last reading.
There we go. Yeah.
Councillor Wing?
That council accepts and gives bylaw 1720-2024 to amend the rates and fees bylaw third and final reading.
Okay, carried, thank you. All right, and we will move into correspondence. Just have somebody please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information. Councillor Heistad?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried. And we'll move into council reports, and we'll begin with Councillor Maceras today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. There's been a little bit of FCM work this last week and this current week and next week. So some of the committee meetings that I'm attending include Prairies and Territories. I went to the environmental issues and sustainable development, which I'll be reporting on next time. We've got the senior center presentation this week and a couple of webinar meetings, Zoom meetings on Friday, the provincial budget analysis and the Alberta Munis report on the Alberta 2024 budget. And then next week, with again back to FCM, the Rural Forum and the Committee of the Whole, both of which I'll be attending online.
Okay, thank you. May I ask you a question? Yep. On pausing the municipal growth framework, where potential budget cuts. Can you elaborate on that, Councillor Maceras?
Not really. The only thing that I can say is that it's put a pause in terms of FCM being ready to put out the reporting.
Okay. Okay. And do you see, sorry, do you see, like I know FCM has been advocating forever to the federal government to increase, what's it called now, the Canada Community Benefit Fund? Is that what it is? Used to be gas tax, something like that. Do they speak about that around the table? Because I find sometimes so much of the focus is on the big cities, and communities, mid-sized towns are maybe left out a little bit. And
I'm not 100% sure because I don't have context and history, but they do talk about that. That has been talked about around the table. And the philosophy behind the discussions is that they want to make sure that there is something sustainable and flexible so that it reflects everybody's needs.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you. I'm just wondering where they're getting their information from to support their efforts. But, Councillor Dunham?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I did not submit a written report as I did not have any meetings to my appointed boards or committees. However, this week, tomorrow, I will be attending the Senior Center presentation. I will also be listening on Thursday for the Alberta budget. And then on Friday, we'll be attending the provincial budget analysis with AB Munis.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Hystad?
I'll ditto what Councillor Dunham had said. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates?
Okay. So, yeah, I'd already reported on the first two that are in my report, and MPC, we approved one variance last week. I do plan also to attend the seniors' presentation and those budget reviews. Wondering if we could take 2 seconds at the very end of our reports and decide who's doing the reports to the seniors when we have multiple
Yeah,
committees.
we can do that after council. Okay, Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I attended only one committee meeting this past week. It was very short. It was our MPC, Municipal Planning Commission meeting. And once I get the report figured out, the reporting on my computer, I'll certainly be submitting a written report. But seniors coming up this week, I'm looking forward to that presentation on Wednesday, and the budget deliberations with the province there on later this week. So that's sort of my week. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I don't have anything to add to the report that I submitted. This week coming up, I have the Innisfail Library Board tomorrow evening, seniors budget presentation on Wednesday, and then the 2 budget meetings on Friday.
Okay, thank you. And my report's in the package, so really nothing more to add. Can tell you in the RETA meeting, we were told by the minister that his ministry is being cut 20% funding in the budget this week, so pretty significant. Surprising when it's jobs, economy, and trade, but I guess that's what it is right now. So, what? Sorry.
Question when you're finished.
Okay, I'm finished. I'm finished. Yep.
Thank you. Question through to, I guess, CEO Becker. Have we heard anything from the province on, they've referred under MC or FCM, citizen training for wildland firefighting? Have we heard anything for upgrading our firemen? Because I believe all they've had is ICS 100, and it appears that this training may be a little more of the suppression tactics. I don't know. Maybe Councillor Massaros could enlighten us a bit. So.
There was some discussion about that exact thing about citizen training. I don't really know too much more about it, though,
okay.
Councillor Harrison.
Okay. Yeah, just a follow-up comment to that. If you're going to train citizens, now's the time to start training, because fire season's about 3 weeks away. So, but and the second question is through to Councillor Wing. How often does the library board meet? Is it once a month or?
Yes, we meet monthly.
Okay. Yeah. I just.
Just through Mayor Barkley over to Councillor Harrison. What I understand is that in Alberta, fire season has already been triggered, so 10 days earlier than normal. There's currently, I think this is, I can't remember. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I was aware that it started the middle of February rather than the 1st of March. Very aware of that. But to train a person even to entry level on the line, the course is probably 2 to 3 weeks. And I guess that's what I'm getting at, is if there's been discussion around particularly fire departments, because they have that sort of basic background fire training, Whereas taking a guy off the street, because I lived that for a while, taking people off the street and training them, and it becomes more of a hazard than what it does a benefit. Because now you're babysitting people that really don't have that adequate training. Just a comment, so thank you.
Member Barkley, Councillor Harrison, has not come across my desk, but doesn't mean the team has not discussed it, so I can certainly look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And open mic, do we have any, nothing today? Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to item 13, the upcoming events. Just have somebody please make a motion that we accept this as information. Councillor Bates.
I'll make the motion that we accept it for information, but I want to point out one little thing here. Terminology on the police commission meeting, I don't think that's a good way to refer to it. I think the policing and safe communities is not a, it's not a police commission.
Okay, we have a motion, all in favor? Okay, carried. And then we'll have a motion to go in camera, please.
Mayor Barkley, I'll make that motion that we move in camera.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Carried.